Step inside the glowing red roof of a classic pizza parlor and breathe in that unforgettable smell of baking dough. We are traveling back to a simpler time when Friday night dinner was the ultimate family event. Get ready to relive 10 Pizza Hut fast food memories from the 1980s. Long before delivery apps and quick takeout windows took over, pulling up to that iconic red roof building was the absolute highlight of any kid's week. The classic architecture was unmistakable, featuring those slanted trapezoid windows and a glowing sign that signaled the start of a perfect Friday night. Walking through those heavy glass doors felt like entering a magical realm entirely dedicated to family fun and melted cheese. You could spot that distinct red roof from a mile away on any American highway, serving as a beacon of comfort and good times. The building itself was a symbol of the golden age of dine-in fast food, where families gathered after a long work week. It was a place where memories were made before you even took your first bite, establishing a warm, welcoming atmosphere that modern restaurants simply cannot replicate today. Once you stepped inside, the cozy, dimly lit dining room instantly wrapped you in a wave of pure nostalgia, defined by those legendary red and white checkered tablecloths. These were not fancy linen covers, but thick, durable vinyl that could withstand endless spills of soda and Parmesan cheese. Hanging directly above every booth was a gorgeous, Tiffany-style stained glass lamp, prominently featuring the classic logo glowing in warm amber light. These lamps created an incredibly intimate and inviting atmosphere, making your family's booth feel like a private little haven away from the outside world. The combination of dark wood paneling on the walls, soft lighting, and the classic checkered pattern created an aesthetic that was undeniably comforting. It provided the perfect rustic backdrop for countless birthday parties and weekend family dinners during the 1980s. For millions of children growing up in the 1980s, reading books was not just about getting good grades, because it was the ultimate ticket to scoring a free personal pan pizza through the legendary Book It program. Teachers handed out those iconic blue and white plastic buttons, and every time you finished a book, you earned a shiny star sticker to proudly display on your chest. Once your button was filled with stars, your parents took you to the local restaurant, where you were treated like absolute royalty. The waitress brought out your very own piping hot pizza, served in a tiny cast-iron skillet just for you. It was a brilliant way to encourage kids to read while giving us a profound sense of independence. That first bite of crispy crust tasted like pure victory, making all those hours reading completely worth the effort. No trip to this beloved pizza parlor was complete without quenching your thirst from one of those unforgettable red plastic pebbled cups. There was something incredibly satisfying about the bumpy texture of the plastic, providing the perfect grip for small hands covered in pizza grease. These indestructible cups were an absolute staple of the dine-in experience, always filled to the brim with crushed ice and a deliciously crisp fountain-poured Pepsi. The ice-cold soda seemed to taste infinitely better when served in these specific red tumblers, creating a refreshing condensation on a hot summer evening. Waitstaff constantly walked around the dining room with huge pitchers, ready to top off your drink before you even realized it was empty. Anyone who grew up in the 80s perfectly recalls the clinking sound of crushed ice hitting the sides of those legendary cups. While waiting for the main course to arrive, kids eagerly begged their parents for a handful of quarters to play the tabletop arcade games scattered around the dining room. These were not your typical stand-up cabinets, but incredible cocktail-style arcade machines where you could sit down and rest your drink right on the glass top. Classic games like Pac-Man and Donkey Kong were absolute favorites, providing endless entertainment as the smell of baking dough wafted through the air. You sat across from your sibling or friend, furiously mashing buttons and moving the joystick, completely mesmerized by the glowing 8-bit graphics. The sound of digital bleeps and bloops mixed perfectly with the chatter of the restaurant, creating a symphony of pure nostalgia. Getting a high score made you a local legend, making the wait for hot pizza fly by in seconds. When the waitress finally emerged from the kitchen carrying a scorching hot cast-iron skillet, the entire table fell silent in pure anticipation of the legendary pan pizza. This was not just any ordinary meal, because the thick, doughy crust was essentially fried in the pan, resulting in an incredibly crispy, buttery bottom that is still dreamed about today. The waitress carefully placed the heavy black pan on a raised metal stand, using a special spatula to dish out the first glorious slices. As she pulled the slice away, strings of gooey, perfectly melted mozzarella cheese stretched across the table, creating a mouth-watering visual. The edges of the crust were perfectly caramelized and slightly charred, offering a satisfying crunch that gave way to a soft, fluffy interior. This signature dish defined American fast food in the 80s, setting a gold standard for dine-in pizza. Before diving into the heavy main courses, families almost always made a highly anticipated trip to the epic, brightly lit salad bar situated in the middle of the restaurant. Shielded by a massive plastic sneeze guard, this buffet of fresh ingredients was a true marvel of the 1980s dining experience. The edges of the ice-filled bar were famously decorated with thick, curly green kale, which nobody ever actually ate, but it made the whole setup look incredibly fancy. You grabbed a chilled glass plate and loaded it up with iceberg lettuce, cherry tomatoes, sliced cucumbers, and a mountain of crunchy croutons. The best part was drowning your creation in a heavy ladle of thick, creamy ranch dressing and aggressively shaking on those bright red bacon bits. It was a place where kids could happily experiment with their food while waiting for the main event. In the middle of the decade, the company decided to get incredibly ambitious by introducing a massive Chicago-style stuffed pie known as the Priazzo. This was not a regular pizza, but rather an absolute behemoth of a meal that featured two separate layers of crust stuffed to the brim with meat, cheese, and a rich tomato sauce. It took significantly longer to bake than standard menu items, but the wait was completely worth it for those craving a hearty, authentic Italian-style feast. The Priazzo was heavily marketed on television, with commercials that made it look like a gourmet masterpiece, quickly becoming a highly requested favorite for special occasions. Slicing into this towering pie revealed gorgeous, steaming layers of Italian sausage, pepperoni, onions, and melted mozzarella. Although it eventually faded from the menu, the Priazzo remains a highly nostalgic food memory today. The unmistakable soundtrack of a Friday night pizza run was always provided by the glowing mechanical jukebox sitting proudly in the corner of the dining room. For just a quarter, you could flip through the plastic pages of song titles and select the biggest musical hits of the 1980s to play for the entire restaurant. Whether it was Michael Jackson, Madonna, or Bruce Springsteen, hearing your favorite song blast through the speakers made you feel incredibly cool as you munched on your pepperoni slice. The jukebox was a communal experience, creating a constantly shifting mood that ranged from upbeat pop anthems to slow rock ballads, depending on who had spare change. Watching the mechanical arm grab the vinyl record and place it on the turntable was fascinating technology. This background music perfectly tied the entire dine-in experience together, cementing the restaurant as a vibrant community hub. After stuffing yourself with endless slices of buttery crust and trips to the salad bar, the ultimate conclusion to the evening was a visit to the glorious dessert station. The absolute crown jewel of this area was the soft-serve ice cream machine, where you pulled the heavy lever and tried to build the tallest vanilla cone imaginable. If you preferred a bowl, you created a custom sundae, burying your ice cream under hot fudge, sticky caramel, rainbow sprinkles, and a mountain of whipped cream. Sometimes the buffet even featured sweet dessert pizzas, covered in warm cherry or apple pie filling and heavily dusted with powdered sugar. Going to the dessert bar was a special reward for finishing your dinner, providing a massive sugar rush that kept kids buzzing all the way home. It was the perfect, sweet ending to a magical night out. Which of these classic pizza parlor moments was your absolute favorite growing up? Comment below with your answer, and make sure to subscribe to American Rewind for more trips down memory lane.